back to another episode of Foster Talks. Today I have an author who just flew all the way from Bangkok to have this conversation, who's written a book which is called Not Indian Enough, and I'm extremely curious to figure out what does she mean by not Indian enough. So I have some questions for you to understand what the book is about and what do you exactly mean by not being an Indian enough. So I have today with me Sumati, who's flown all the way from Bangkok for us for this conversation. Welcome to Foster Talks.
Thank you so much. We just got in last night at about 1 a.m. So please forgive me if a few of my answers come a little bit slowly.
No problem.
I'm very excited to be here. You know, as a writer, we spend so much time locked in our rooms with just the voices in our head. So for those voices to actually come to life is very exciting for me.
Exactly. Congratulations on your book, by the way.
Thank you so much.
So Sumati, while I ask you, before I even start asking you about your book, you might be a debut author, but then you're not new to writing at all.
No.
You've been a writer, a very successful writer for that matter, throughout your career. You've been doing a lot of writings, a lot of amazing, great magazines that you've been writing for. Can you just take us through a little bit about your writing journey to start off with?
Sure, of course. I mean, I didn't plan to become a writer. That wasn't my career dream. I think just throughout high school and college, I had a lot of really amazing English teachers and literature teachers. So for example, when I would write an essay, they would share some of my paragraphs with the class, and which surprised me a little bit. I was like, oh, okay, maybe there's something there.
You're writing good.
And so maybe I'm mom, dad, I am very good at school. It's okay. Then, you know, I've always loved reading. That is just one thing I have done since I was a kid. And I encourage my children now. I'm like, if you can read, you can change the world. You will never need to ask anyone any answers. You will find it. So I think all of that just naturally came together. And then I had an opportunity in Bangkok to join a young lifestyle magazine that was very witty, very satirical of the Thai politics and lifestyle. And as a Thai Indian, they asked me to write a bit about being Indian in Thailand. Then I was like, wow, it just all came together. That's my voice.
Wow.
The being satirical and making jokes of things that maybe people will take a little too seriously.
Oh, that's amazing. So you are technically born and brought up in Thailand.
Yes, I'm born and brought up in Bangkok. I'm Hindi bahut thoda.
Let's not try that today.
So please don't ask me anything in Hindi.
Got it.
My parents are also born and brought up in Bangkok. They're a lot more Indian than me. So they speak Hindi, they speak Thai, and they speak English. But, you know, with each generation, it gets a bit more watered down. So that's also a little bit of a segue into my book about not being Indian enough.
Okay, so Sumati, in your book, you're talking about a character named Sanjana, which I'm assuming is an Indian girl who is born and brought up in Bangkok, Thailand. So you're basically talking about her story of how she is born there, brought up there. She's trying to navigate her life in a foreign land, living with an Indian family. So I think there's a lot of things we're talking about in terms of her trying to find out her own identity. In terms of her own day-to-day life, it could be trying to figure out her spaces within the culture. So how has this journey been? One, for you personally, as somebody who's been in the same shoes, and then in the book, the character that you've built for Sanjana, how do you think for somebody how do somebody actually navigate through these things? What take have you actually done in the book?
Right. So you mentioned an identity crisis, but as I also would take it a step further to a cultural crisis.
Yeah, very much.
As in, you know, once you leave India, which my family did many, many years ago, I would say even before partition,
it's pretty long ago.
My paternal grandfather made his way to Bangkok for business opportunities, which a lot of Indians did. In fact, our community in Bangkok is pretty much Indians from all the same villages. And, they're everywhere you go in the world, you will see an Indian.
Of course.
Right? Like no matter where
One in
you
every
go.
6, they say.
So in Bangkok, we have our community of Indians, and it's a fantastic community. Don't we get access to all the fashion from India? We have the 5-day weddings. We have amazing restaurants. So in Bangkok, we have sustained our Indian culture. What I think I struggled with, but I was not able to put the description to it, is once you leave India, you're even more steadfast in maintaining what does being Indian mean in a country away from your motherland. So I think for me, the way that translated was that the parents and the grandparents have to be even more strict, especially with their daughters. Even more strict about them going out at night, what they wear, how they present themselves. This is, we don't show our arms, we don't show our legs, we don't show ourselves. We're good, we're conservative, we study, we pray. Those things didn't come naturally to me, and I'm also the product of a American education system and American TV. And I didn't learn Hindi, which I really regret now as an adult. I'm here in Delhi for the first time in about 8 years. I only visited as a tourist since I was a kid, and I'm glad I had the exposure to India. But the reason I'm here now, besides to talk to you, is I have 2 children. They don't identify with being Indian. They're half Indian. But if you ask them where they're from, they for some reason they don't identify with being Indian. Then I was like, oh God, am I gonna learn from my upbringing? I didn't know what it meant to be Indian as well. And for me, I think it led to a lot of battles with my parents, with my family. And it was very much internalized. Why am I so different? Why is it so hard for me to end up with an Indian guy, or only have Indian friends, or love going to do puja, with my mom? Why do I not relate to any of this? I want my kids to have the exposure, but I also want to let them choose.
Interesting. No, I think that's a very interesting take. So when I was a teenager, during my 15, 16 years, my higher studies, my high secondary education, I was abroad for 2 years. So when I came back, I remember I was in Japan for 2 years. So when I was in Japan and I was studying there, I was so inclined towards doing my higher studies there. So but my dad was very adamant on one thing: I want you to come back right now. Do your UG undergraduation in India. After that, I don't care where you want to go. You do it. We'll figure out the finances, we go. But right now, I want you to come back. And at that moment, I was very like, I want to do this, but then why are my parents stopping me? So I had this feeling. But then later today, when I look back, I actually figured or realized why my dad was telling it is because at that moment, I'm 16, 17, 18. And this is where you're figuring out life. My dad's point was simple. At this age, if you step out, you're never going to be an Indian. So at that moment, I was like, no, but then what does it mean? Where is that need for it? I was very rebellious at that point. But then I never understood what he was trying to say. But then later I actually figured he made a lot of sense. Because at that moment, if I had been abroad, I would have got adapted to that culture. I would have wanted to lead my life in that culture and technically forget my roots. So I think this is something that's happening with a lot of people. So I also, from your book, the way I was rebellious, I also figured that in your book, you were talking about how Sanjana has been a lot rebellious with her parents. And there's also a very interesting quiz that you've kind of picked up at the start of the book where you're trying to see how rebellious am I. So how has this rebellious journey turned out for you? What were those struggles like? But then as an individual and as a person, your parents, they are also human, right? So how was this journey of navigation of the space within your own family So this character that you've built is doing all of this.
Right.
How did you build this character?
Right.
How did you find this rebellion? And how do you actually think really today in anybody? Bangkok is just one place we can think of, but anybody living abroad, how do you think this entire journey, rebellious journey, is going on?
I think, as you said, Bangkok is just one place. And, I just want to preface this whole conversation by saying there's no right or wrong exactly, whether someone chooses to be very traditional, whatever that means to them, or someone chooses to go completely against being Indian. I personally believe there's no right or wrong, but it's just about having the space to have the discussion and the space to have a constructive discussion. Not just, no, this is the way it is. This is how we dress. This is how we present ourselves. And, when you grow up being Indian, it's funny that, like, whether you know it or not, it does define who you are. Okay. Whether you accept it or not, just growing up with it. I think, so the protagonist in my book, Sanjana, right? So for her, it starts off innocent enough. She dresses more Western, she always sticks out in Indian weddings because she has the very ugly Indian clothes because she doesn't identify with being Indian. Wearing a bindi, she doesn't know where it goes exactly, and she only wears it because her mom forces her to. She is, like I said, the product of a lot of inspired by a lot of my own experiences, but also many girls, I think, who grow up away from their motherland that are struggling with what it means. And, what you wear, it's innocent. Yeah. But then when that rebellion grows to who you date, and then eventually who you marry, and who you have children with, then it becomes very important. What does being Indian mean? Because if you're not with an Indian, how will you pass on to your children being Indian? And if you don't have that strong foundation yourself, so there's just so many things, and it's a parent's burden to see your life in 20 years. Oh, she wants to dress wearing shorts and crop tops and show her belly, show her arms, show her legs. Like, she's doing that now. In 20 years, what will she be like? Will she be trouble? And not to give away any spoilers, but there is trouble.
Of course,
trouble happens. So
that's interesting. You're actually reminding me of the TV show Never Have I Ever. Actually, the way how the girl navigates through her life. That's interesting. But then again, I feel our discussion is going on very serious also. So let's keep it light a little bit. Your language is very satirical. Yes. It's been very witty throughout the book. And I just checked out a few of your articles from your earlier writings as well. And I found a similar language. Yes. Why that kind of a tone? Like, is it something that you intentionally chose, or is this something that you randomly discovered on the way?
I think if there's no humor, then you'd just be crying. Like you said, our conversation, it is serious. Yeah. It is about serious things. But if we don't take this topic and make it humorous, it's draining, and then you need the humor and the wittiness and observation. Not a lot of people get satire or sarcasm. Some people would say sarcasm is not a very...
People take it offensively.
It's not an intelligent way of writing. I wouldn't say I'm very sarcastic, but I do try to be a bit more satirical. Yeah. This I give credit to how I navigated my own rebellion, because otherwise you just become angry. Yeah,
very true. Yeah,
you just become angry. You have to learn how to laugh about it, and I didn't realize that I was making sense of it through writing. So it really did become an outlet for me. And one of the best compliments I receive, I write a column in Bangkok about Thai Indians and our little quirks. And most of the feedback I receive is, how do you know us so well? And I'm like, I'm watching you even when you don't think I
You're one
am.
among them, to be honest.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that's such a great compliment when somebody reads it and they see themselves in it. And it's just for us to understand our shared identity, and we can laugh about it. It doesn't always, like you said, have to be so serious.
Yeah, very true. So how has the book helped you in your personal journey? Because you've kind of revolved around this topic throughout your life. I mean, throughout your life, not exactly throughout your life, but at least throughout your career, right? With the columns that you're writing in. So now that you actually created a book out of it with inspiration from a lot of your real life incidents. So how has this personally helped you out?
I don't know if it's personally helped me, because in the story, my story is over. If you're going with a book, the traditional definition of comedy, it ends in marriage. It ends in marriage. So technically my comedy is over. So for me, it's more like, as I mentioned, the highest compliment is if someone reads my book and they see themselves in the character. And they say, the struggle is there, the rebellion is there, but either we can realize it could have a happy ending, or it could inspire, as I mentioned, more dialogue, more openness. I feel that that's something that lacks in Indian communities outside India. I cannot speak to India because I've never lived here. But from what I've observed outside India, we're very conservative. We're very closed off. We don't talk about, the naughty things or the problems. If anything, if a reader can identify with this girl, she can laugh a little bit with her and see there's a happy ending, or there can be a resolution if that reader is going through something herself. That's what I hope they take away.
Oh, that's interesting. So do you think, this is, I'm asking out of curiosity, because I also have a lot of cousins, relatives who are abroad. Somehow in my mind, I've always felt that they are living abroad. Supposedly, they are to be more forward, more open than we are, because we hold to a lot of traditional beliefs, a lot of orthodox beliefs. In a good way, we actually hold on to it. But somehow, somewhere, I felt that people who are abroad, who are living with family, they are a little bit more closed than we are in terms of how they see things. But what is your take on that? Do you think the families abroad are more orthodox than, in a good way, nothing negative here, but what do you think?
No, I agree with you on this take as well. But as I said, it's very hard for me to say, because I can only speak to my little Indian community in Bangkok. Before we started shooting, I think I mentioned to you that, when we come to India, any family friends we have here, they're so shocked by our backwardness. You don't drink alcohol in front of your family. You get covered up in India. You're so scared to be yourself. I feel like in Bangkok, most Indians only will drink in front of their families when they're married. Or not at all. Like if they live in a joint family, they might not even serve alcohol. So I in a way, then it just pushes you to do things behind their backs. So I wonder, is it better if you do all these naughty things with your parents, and then at least you have some control? Because
at least you can go back in case you get in trouble.
Exactly. But no, we are, I would say, we just hold on more fiercely to what we think being Indian means. There's one small section in the book that I reference this. Please tell me if you've ever heard of this. So in Bangkok, we still celebrate Diwali. That's big for us there too. We get the patake. Am I saying it right? Patake or patakas. Firecrackers.
Firecrackers. Let's stick to firecrackers.
And, we dress up and there's Diwali parties. And, so that's something I'm very superficial level
Okay.
understanding of being Indian, we still celebrate Diwali. But it's a huge thing to throw a first Diwali party for your son. So your son's first Diwali, they get a big party.
Okay.
And one element of that party is they build this model called a hatti.
Yeah.
Do you know what a hatti is?
Not really.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So any Indian Indian from India, I've
Okay.
mentioned this too. They're like, what's a hatti?
Okay.
A hatti is like a 3D model type thing that the parents will commission for whether it's a set of buildings or a hospital or a train set, because it's supposed to represent what they want their son to be when he grows up. They put it in his first Diwali. It's there when you enter, very elaborate. Less families do it now, but when I was a kid, that was something that was done.
Whoa.
So say like there's a hospital, that's their dream. They want their son to be a doctor, a train set, maybe an engineer, lot of buildings, maybe a businessman. And they only do it for the sons, not and it's something that now in my generation, moms, they'll be like, we're doing this for our daughter too. You know, like son, daughter, doesn't matter, we're doing it. So it's nice to see that evolution. But as I mentioned, no one in India does this. What's a hatti? It became a very Bangkok thing. How we interpreted what it means to be Indian and what it means for our sons. I'm from a family with a lot of boys. So it didn't help that I was rebellious. I was one of the only girls in my family, and suddenly, you know, my parents, they're like, God, she's a girl and she's rebellious. Like, what do we do with her? You know, but credit to my parents, really. My dad's sitting outside. I'm 39 years old and he chaperoned me here.
Sweet.
To this day. He still got my back. But, you know, credit to them. They really, really had to open themselves up.
Oh, that's actually interesting because these customs which you were speaking about, I think I've heard about these in India. I mean, where I'm coming from in my family, we don't do these, but I think there are still people in India who are following some of these.
Do you
but then,
like a sun's first Diwali? Is that a normal?
No, so where I am from Kerala, so for us Diwali is one among the many festivals that we do, but it's not our main festival. So for me, being in Delhi itself, so that's where the cultural differences come. I think it's not just for people who are abroad. Within India, you get cultural shocks. So I was in Delhi for the last Diwali, and this was my very first time I was in North India during a Diwali season, and I was shocked to know that Diwali duration, there's even school holidays for 10 days. I never knew. Because in Kerala, for me, Diwali is just another day. It is a national holiday. I know it's a national festival. We eat sweets, mithai. We celebrate it by eating good sweet mithai and maybe burst some firecrackers. But that's also rare. Because for me, firecrackers happens in a different festival altogether. I think these kind of cultural differences are some things that we figured it out within India also. Because living in North now, being a South Indian, there are cultural things that I'm also navigating. So I think this is a huge version of this which you're talking about when for somebody who's living in and with an Indian community abroad. But that's brilliant. But that's really brilliant. So how has your entire career that you've been already having, the writing career that you have, did this really support you in your writing journey as well? Like, were you able to pick out your earlier writings, look back into it, elaborate them, build it into a book? Did this really help you out?
Okay, so yes, of course, my writing career helped immensely with my book. And writing a book is no joke. It's really...
it's not.
I didn't realize what I was in for. I'm used to magazines. So a lot more short form columns, you know, But in my writing career, I think I found my tone, my voice that made me very distinctly me.
Yeah.
So when someone can read it, they'll be like, "Oh, Sumati wrote that.
Yeah.
We know that's
Yeah.
her."
Yeah.
Very sarcastic, satirical,
Mm-hmm.
witty,
Mm-hmm.
and usually poking fun
Mm-hmm.
at something.
Mm-hmm.
For most of my career, I worked for a Thai magazine.
Okay.
So it was a lot on Thai politics.
Mm.
I think after a while, I was like, I want to explore more of what it means to be Indian, a Thai Indian.
Okay.
Because, in Thailand, they don't really believe I'm Thai also.
Okay.
Because they're like, you don't look Thai. You can speak Thai, but you don't look Thai, you don't sound Thai.
Yeah.
Whereas in India, I get the opposite. Like, you're Indian? Why don't you speak Hindi? I'm like, oh God, it's like, you can't win anywhere.
Yeah, actually.
So in my career, I think I had solidified my tone.
Yeah.
Now to take that tone in a full-length book is, like, as I said, no joke.
Hard work.
Sometimes you're halfway through and you're like, oh God, what am I don't know what I'm writing. And being a writer is not a switch.
Yeah.
You can just turn on, like, okay, today I'm gonna sit and when the inspiration comes, it comes. So a lot of the content for this book stems from about 10 years ago, when everybody thought they were a fashion influencer and started a blog. So I decided to use this blog not just to talk about fashion, but separate it as Indian girl fashion.
Wow.
As in a rebellious Indian girl's fashion. An Indian girl who maybe shows too much skin. And I had the outfit photos, but then I would have the very, satirical, what would an auntie say if she saw me wearing this outfit versus this top is from here. And so that blog was just sitting there. I never wanted to be a blogger, but at that point of time, it was all I could manage. I had just had my first child.
Yeah.
So I could write a post while he was napping. And then I was like, there's something here, but I don't know what. I don't want it to just die on this blog. Yeah. What could it be? Should it be a series in a magazine? Who would I pitch it to? Then I was like, as a writer, it would just be amazing. Yeah. The last thing on my career bucket list, publish a book.
Wow.
So it was a journey.
Yeah.
I took everything off that blog. Yeah. I didn't intentionally shut it down. I just forgot the password. And I think it's just somewhere floating in cyberspace. Whoa. And then I started expanding upon those original posts and making it a bit more book-like. But in my career, always leaning towards more creative writing, I took a lot of liberties with the book in terms of, it's not a beginning, middle, and end. Like, it plays with time. It's not I'm a child, then I'm a teenager, then I'm, a grown-up, the end. So it goes back and forth in time. I try to play with a lot of writing elements. As you mentioned, there's a quiz that starts out the book, because why not have fun with
true.
words,
No, I love that. Love the perception that you have. I mean, that's amazing. And my last question to you is going to be around this itself. What changed being a rebellious kid who wanted to be a Thai girl in a foreign land, but today you embrace your Indian culture, fashion, religion, whatever you could say, you embrace being an Indian. Where did the switch happen?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. I'm still figuring out. Okay. I wouldn't say now maybe there's a switch, but I think once you have kids, you have more to lose.
Yeah.
And I'm not very religious, or I never thought I was very religious, but whether it works or not, when you have children, you realize, oh God, I want to pray for them. The way my mom prays for us still.
Yeah.
And we didn't know why is mom praying so
Yeah.
much. But I think it's just, once you have kids, you have more to lose.
Yeah.
You want to be a good example for them. I have a daughter now, and I'm going to be very curious to see how I react
Wow.
to her inevitable rebellion. You know,
True.
she's 5, but
But it's inevitable. It's gonna happen.
it's
no
gonna
matter
happen.
what.
And I don't know, who am I gonna be? Am I gonna be
Wow.
like, it's okay, you know, we'll go through this together.
Yeah.
You like this boy, great, let's talk about it. He's not Indian, it's fine.
Yeah.
Or am I gonna be like, no,
Mm.
you need to marry an Indian.
Yeah.
You need to, you know, be dressed
Whoa.
nicely. I don't know. I'm very curious what the future
Yeah.
holds, and could potentially be the subject of a follow-up book.
I was about to tell that. I look
Yeah.
forward to it. Your daughter's what, 5 now?
She's 5.
So I'm looking forward to a book when she is in her teenage, or when she starts, not even teenage. I mean, today's kids are smart. Come on, who are we
They
kidding?
are
So
very
maybe
smart.
once during that age group of 8 to 15, maybe a book can come out there. And then when
Maybe.
she is in her 20s, going out, flying out, studies, marriage, relationships.
Yeah.
I think that's really good, interesting content there.
They asked me the other day, they're like, Mama, can you tell us about your life? And I was like, yeah,
Wow.
I love baking. I love, going to watch movies with my friends. I read a lot. And they're like, Mama, your life is so boring. I'm like, that's because I didn't even tell you the half of it. I will keep that out. You're 5, you're 7. Like, you don't
Grow up,
need
at
to
least
know
10.
it. But my husband and I look at each other and we're like, oh God, we know our daughter is going to give us
A lot
a
to
lot of
think
sleepless
about.
nights, and we'll be interested to see how we
true.
react to her.
Good
And
luck with
even when I mentioned to my dad, he was like,
We don't
you
know. We've done our part, now you take care.
Exactly. He's just like, karma.
Amazing. Nice. Really good luck with that. I mean, that's parental is not easy at all.
Yeah.
But then, yeah. So I have a set of rapid fire questions because you've been so fun. You've had a nice, humorous take on everything. I would really want to fire some questions at you, and you know the rules. You have 3 seconds maximum to actually think of what pops up into your head. Then and there, you need to give me that frank, original
Sure.
answer. Are we good?
We're good.
Okay, first question. Tea or coffee?
Chai for life.
Lovely. Traditional saree or modern wear?
Modern dress.
One word to describe your personal style.
Impractical.
Okay. Okay. I was a believer of comfort over fashion, but then,
Very
okay.
impractical.
Eye-opening for me. Okay. Favorite fashion item?
I have to say Carrie Bradshaw. Like
interesting.
everybody. Yeah, I just love her, how she styles things. And
Yeah.
I still find her amazing after all these years.
Interesting. Okay. Most rebellious thing you've ever done?
Married a non-Indian.
How did your community react to it?
You can read about it.
Okay. Coming back to it. What's the best advice you've ever received?
That's a good one. Is my 3 seconds up?
No, you can still vote on that. I don't
Best
mind.
advice I've ever received. Talk less.
Okay, because you're a writer, I think I'll come back to it telling it's okay, you can talk less, you can write more.
Yeah.
I think it works. Okay. One book you think that everyone should read?
You know, years ago when I was in middle school,
Okay.
I don't know what you call it, secondary?
That's middle school is a high school.
Okay, I was just in my library at school. I saw this book called A Suitable Boy by Vikram Seth. It was a massive book.
Okay.
Pulled it off the shelf, read it in, I would say, like 3 days.
Okay.
And I remember it had so many themes about the partition,
Yeah.
about relationships. I think I reread it a few years ago. And for some reason, it just really shaped my perception on what it means to be Indian and how relationships over so many points in history, like it's still complicated.
Wow. Okay.
Love that
Interesting how you actually,
Yeah.
the suggestion from you is a book by an Indian author.
Yeah,
Wow.
fantastic
That talks
book.
about the Indian
Yeah.
in you. Okay, so your go-to outfit on a casual outing day.
anything my kids can't ruin.
Simple. Go
Or
ahead.
anything they can ruin that I don't love. I dress up when they're in bed.
Okay. If you could live in any era in a fashion history, which era would that be?
I think like the 50s, because women made more effort then. And now we're like, it's nice to be casual, but it's also nice to be forced to make the effort, because willingly I would never do it.
Oh, interesting. I just got reminded of Bridgerton.
Yeah, love that.
Lovely. Describe Not Indian Enough, your book, in 3 words.
Rebellious, witty, contemporary.
Oh, nice. That's a good selling point. Thank you so much,
Thank
Sumati.
you
It was
so
fun
much.
having you here today. It was an amazing conversation, and good luck with your book.
Thank you so
And
much.
I do look forward to the sequel.
The sequel. I will try to
Amazing.
work on it.
Definitely. Thank you so much for being in here today, and have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank
You too.
you.